Now is Democratic Senator Ed Markey. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
What do you make of the Trump transition team demanding, sending out this 74 question questionnaire to the Department of Energy?
It's irresponsible. Every single academy of science in the world, every single country has reached the conclusion that climate change is real, the planet is dangerously warming, and that human activity is largely responsible for it. Any employee of the Department of Energy that has been working on climate science over the last 8 years is actually doing their job. It would be irresponsible not to deal with the issue. And now what we're seeing is an inquiry by the Trump transition team that goes right to the heart of the integrity of the science, which has been conducted at the Department of Energy, at the EPA, at the other agencies of the federal government over the last several years, dealing with this issue.
Do you have proof of that? Do you have proof of that? I mean, are you sure that's what the Trump transition wants in sending out this questionnaire?
They are specifically asking questions about the activities of employees at the Department of Energy working on climate science. I don't think there's any question that that is meant to send a chilling effect through all of the science of the federal government for the coming era. If you look at it in the conjunction with the appointment of the head of ExxonMobil to be the Secretary of State, the Attorney General from Oklahoma, who wants to turn the EPA into every polluter's ally, and you look at Rick Perry, who wants to abolish the Department of Energy, you can see a pattern which is very obvious that they are going after the science of climate change. It is now a big oil all-star team which is being put together, and these questions that are going to the scientists of our federal government are really meant to say, just get out of the way. There's a new team in town. It's the big oil all-stars.
So is there any plans that Democrats have to try to block these cabinet picks?
That's why, honestly, these confirmation hearings are going to be historically important. We know that climate change is dangerously warming the planet. We know that generationally it is something that's going to have a fundamental impact on every single citizen of the planet, and that the United States has to be the leader. These hearings on each one of these nominees is going to have to go right to the heart of that issue. Do they understand how fundamental this threat is to not only the United States, but to the entire planet? And are we going to be a leader, or are we going to be climate deniers? Because that seems to be what the pattern is.
Rex Tillerson, the CEO of ExxonMobil, who Donald Trump wants to be a Secretary of State, as CEO of ExxonMobil, he has embraced climate change, and he's made some moves within Exxon to deal with that. Does that provide any comfort at all to you?
Over the years, ExxonMobil was the leader of the climate deniers. They may have made some movement, but understand this, as you're looking at the new nominees for EPA, for energy, for the Department of State, what you're seeing is oil being put at the center of our energy policy, of our economic policy, of our environmental policy, and our foreign policy. And that is a very dangerous conclusion for the future. Oil policy is not...
Why do you say it's dangerous? Why? Because many Americans say we should be totally energy independent, and it's dangerous for us not to be.
Well, right now, the oil industry wants to export the oil which we have in the United States before we have reached energy independence. That's the position of ExxonMobil. That's the position of the governor of Texas. Export our oil that we have right now. How can that be good for our national security? How can that be good for the long-term relationships which we have with countries around the world? We have to look at this very closely to make sure that our national interests align with the interests of these nominees who come from an industry perspective which isn't always aligned with our long-term foreign policy, economic policy, environment, or energy policy interests.
All right, I have to leave it there. Senator Ed Markey, thanks so much for being with me this morning. Still to come in the newsroom, Donald Trump vows to deport